So what I'd like to do is briefly talk about the bond issue a little bit so everybody's got a clear understanding, because there seems to be some misinformation out there, and it's helpful for you to be able to have the facts to be able to make the decision that's best for our community. Commissioners Court on August 15th, basically 10 days before the storm, we voted $80 bond issue. The reason I supported the $80 million bond issue was for several reasons. First of all, Galveston County Commissioners Court has cut the tax rate below the effective rate the last 7 years in a row. That means not only did we come under the effective rate, which means it's considered a tax cut, but we cut the rate each of those 7 years. And since 2012, we also have paid off 38% of our county debt. So we're being prudent with the dollars that you've entrusted with us. We've also had our AA rating increased from AA to AAA. One of 10 counties in the state of Texas that has a AAA rating, and the only one on the Texas Gulf Coast. And I'm proud to say that Hurricane Harvey has not affected our AAA bond rating. We've got healthy fund balances, and the reason that is because we're managing the money and we're making those decisions that are best for the taxpayers. So we decided to put an $80 million bond issue. Well, how did you get to $80 million? Real simple. That was the dollar amount that we could do without having a tax increase. Yes, there could be a tax increase associated with the bond issue, but we chose $80 million because we thought we could absorb that in what's called new improvements. New improvements is that value that comes onto the books in subsequent years that wasn't on in the prior years. We use an assumption rate of 3%. Galveston County has been growing at a faster pace than 3%. And with the way that we're going to structure the debt, we're not going to issue all $80 million at once. We're going to do half, and then we'll do half again as the projects develop. So that's how we got to the $80 million. Then we had the hurricane come up. But before the hurricane, the city submitted projects to the county judge's office, what projects were important to them, because we figured that cities knew what projects were important to them. Because many of you know that city taxpayers are also county taxpayers. And the way we did that is we did that by formula. We did two formulas. One formula was the assessed value of each individual municipality based on the overall county population, and that gave us $1 amount per city. Then we did the same thing with assessed value, where you took the individual assessed value for each community and put that against the overall county value, and that gave us a dollar amount for each city. And whichever formula worked best for that particular city, that's the dollar amount they got. And we based that off of a $35 million formula. So even though we did a $35 million formula, the amount to municipalities is close to $40 million because each city got the formula that worked best for them. Because people have been complaining, well, why is the county doing projects in the city? Very simple. If people don't see projects on a bond issue that they can recognize and that will personally benefit them to help their quality of life and get them moving in traffic quickly with a minimal amount of effort, they won't support a bond issue. And that's why the county selects projects within the cities to get the people who live in the cities to support the bond issue. So we've got $56 million for roads, $18 million for facilities, and $6 million for drainage. Those projects were, of the $56 million, $40 million was basically for cities. So I'm just going to leave that off because that was the cities. One of the projects that's really important for Galveston County is Pelican Island Bridge. Who here has heard of Pelican Island Bridge? Okay, a few of you have. Pelican Island Bridge is a bridge from the island to Pelican that right now goes through the center of the Texas A&M campus. Somebody from A&M was supposed to whoop there. I forgot, did somebody not get designated for that? Okay, good, just wanted to make sure somebody's paying attention. So they are putting new improvements in at A&M to the tune of $239 million. Their population is exploding student-wise, and A&M system is anticipating bringing additional disciplines down to Galveston because their other campuses are built out. So we need to have a road, a new bridge that will be able to service A&M. You say, well, why do we need a new bridge? I'm glad you asked. The current bridge was built in 1958 by the Navigation District, which is a taxing jurisdiction east of 103rd Street East, and it was built to Pelican Island. Well, they can only generate about $1.2 million in revenue every year, so they can't afford a lot of debt service on a bridge. You say, well, you know, how's that your problem? The problem is that Pelican Island is one of the largest land masses in the country that has deep water access, 48.5 feet deep on the east side of Pelican Island. What does that get us? That gets us post-Panamax ships that come through the Panama Canal. Port of Houston owns 1,100 acres on Pelican Island. We need to be able to position ourselves that we can create economic development for all of Galveston County taxpayers. Because if we could double, quadruple the taxable value on Pelican Island, we could create primary jobs. Primary jobs are important. Primary jobs return revenue. Those dollars turn over in the community 14, 16 times, and that reduces the residential burden, the taxes on residential taxpayers. That's why Pelican Island is important. It's also a public safety issue for the school. And granted, it's not our bridge, but we think maybe we have the ability to get that done and make a difference. We felt on Commissioner's Court it was important to go to the taxpayers. $5 million is slated to go to Pelican Island Bridge. Another project that we've got is for match for TxDOT. TxDOT likes partners, not dependents. Anytime TxDOT comes in and does an FM road, the local entity has to provide funding for the right-of-way. 10% match. We've got serious problems on some of our FM roads, specifically FM 517 west of 646, which is the only east-west thoroughfare between I-45 and Alvin, and that road is heavily trafficked. Dickinson ISD just built a new education village over there. That traffic can back up to a mile and a half in the mornings, and we need to expand that road project. So those are just a couple of the transportation projects that we have. Then we've got facilities. We're going to update our Calder Road Annex, $2.8 million. Needs a new roof, needs new AC. We've got to clean out the crawl space underneath. We've got a road and bridge facility that was built in the early 50s, World War II era Quonset hut. It rains inside when it rains outside. We're going to demo that whole property and reconfigure it, because even though we're a growing county with population, we have 13 municipalities, we still have 356 miles of unincorporated roads that we have to maintain. And having the facilities to be able to maintain those roads is important to everybody. Then we also have our facilities over in the Bay Cliff area. Patty Chadwick, she'll attest, those buildings are deteriorating. They're built in the late 70s. They're rusting through. We're going to look at either rehabbing them if the steel's still good. If not, we'll build a new one in the parking lot at the community center, tear the other two down. $2.4 million. We also have a medical examiner's building that was built in the early 80s. That particular complex, when it was built, would accommodate a population of about 600,000 people. The population now is about 2.6 million. You're saying, Ken, Galveston County doesn't have 2.6 million, and I would say you're right. But we have a contract with UTMB, and they provide autopsies, not only for Galveston County, but Brazoria County, Matagorda County, and Fort Bend County. So what we're going to do is we're going to move down to our building at the old environmental health building at 1205 Oak, expand that building, double the size of it, put in a state-of-the-art medical examiner's building, because for one, it's important to the district attorney so he can prosecute those cases, and it's important to law enforcement to be able to get those cases prosecuted. Then we have drainage. $6 million for drainage. If I had to do over, if I'd have known on August 15th that we were going to get Hurricane Harvey, 48 inches of rain, just over here at I-45 in Clear Creek. Thank you. Just over at I-45 in Clear Creek, that was a 2,500-year storm on the freeway. 2,500-year storm. That's amazing. You can't make ditches big enough to accommodate a rain event that gives you the annual rainfall in 3 days. We just can't do it. It's just humanly impossible. The taxpayer, I know I wouldn't put up with it, because the ditch that you see along the subdivisions, those are usually considered 10-year ditches. And the ditch that you see out in front of your house in your residential neighborhood, that's considered a 2-year ditch. So we're trying to fit a 2,500-year storm in a 2-year ditch. That just doesn't happen. But I digress. We did 3 projects for drainage. Slope improvements on Highlands Bayou. We have a subdivision that's falling into the bayou. We can't have that. $1.5 million. We're also looking at a detention facility on Cloud Bayou, down in the Santa Fe area. That project's not funded. But the reason we put that in there is because if there is excess monies available, we can go in and do that project with that bond money because it's been listed. Then we've got a problem down at J Road in Hitchcock. We've got some easements that need some pipelines that need to be moved. $1.5 million. We're going to get that resolved. We may be able to do a public-private partnership, 3P, on that and leverage some private dollars. But the big one that's very important, in 1992, Galveston County did a study that said on the Dickinson Bayou watershed, they did a study that said we needed 5 detention facilities on the Dickinson Bayou watershed. In 2008, we did the first one. It's called Alternate Pond C. 704 acre feet. An acre foot holds 325,000 gallons. So 704,000 acre feet is 22 million gallons of water. You say, well, what impact does that make? The difference is with that alternate pond C, you had about 40 homes that didn't flood because that detention facility was there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go out and we're going to purchase some property. We're going to put in another detention facility and try to alleviate some of the rising water on Dickinson Bayou. The silver lining, if there is a silver lining in a hurricane, is that it draws in federal money. Galveston County received in excess of $75 million in federal money from Hurricane Ike through alternate projects and other things of that nature in CDBG program. But a lot of those projects require a 10% match. So now we've got $6 million for drainage that if we can match that to federal dollars, that'll give us $60 million worth of improvements. Think about that for just a moment. What can $60 million worth of improvements do in the Dickinson Bayou watershed or Cloud Bayou? It can make a tremendous impact. Because people who had an inch of their house of water fared much better than those that had 4 feet of water. Is that not correct, Sean? It makes a difference. So if we can keep the water out of the house, that's what we're here to do. So that's why I ask for you to support the bond issue. Roads, facilities, and drainage. They're important. Early voting is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 7 to 7, with Election Day on November 7th. This is a very critical bond issue. We need to be able to get these projects done to keep Galveston County moving forward and to alleviate some of our flooding issues.